31 years ago today, I was on my way home from a football match. I stopped at a 7-Eleven, which was down the road from our house. I bought popcorn, I bought a Galaxy chocolate bar, and I filled up with Pepsi. Came home, sat down to watch a game, and like millions of others, I thought it was going to be a good game. It was seasoned, Liverpool against Notts Forest. A short time into the first half, the game was abandoned. What I believed, and I think everybody else watching it believed as well at home, was that it was typical English football hooliganism, that it was Liverpool at it again. As the hours and the days unfolded, we realised that something more serious had happened. 96 people who went to watch a game of football never came home. Almost 800 others had life-changing injuries. I'll never forget that time, 31 years ago in Hillsborough. And I think the football world this year will mark it with a minute silence. It just shows that there are more important things than sport and football. And that we are lucky that we can go to a game now and enjoy it. Because the greed and the stupidity and the idiocy of the people who were organising football at that time, it hasn't gone away, but it has been tempered and it has been controlled a little bit more. So we start off this Capital Sports 2.0 with a thought and prayer for those who passed and those who are still waiting for justice from Hillsborough in 1989. I'm Alan Moore, and on that tough note, we're going to move on to the show, because usually we'd end the show with that reminder, but right now we are 3 years on the go this week, and I'd like to introduce two of our mainstays of the show, Mr. Andrew Flint, our man out in Siberia.
Hello. How are you doing, Alan?
Very, very good, Andrew. And finally, we can see him. He's in full lockdown. It's Double N. Double N, how are you doing?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Okay. Folks, we start on a sad note because we're going to make the rest of the show a little bit better. We have a preview of the Turkmenistan Football League, because remember, there's only 5 leagues that are actually being played at the moment. There's Taiwan, Turkmenistan, there's Tajikistan, there's Nicaragua, and there's Belarus. So where everybody else is in lockdown and waiting for this pandemic to end, these leagues are going ahead. We're going to have a chat about that a little bit later on. Double N is going to handle that. However, first, Andrew Flint has a few pieces of football news from England, and then we're going to have a doping story. And one thing I want to congratulate Andrew Flint on is that we've forgotten that Arsenal were doping under Arsene Wenger.
Well, yes, it's amazing, really, in my mind, that we are now, 25 years on from the period in question, and it's suddenly little drips and drabs are coming out more and more. There is news stories that I'd be perfectly honest, I had missed about 10 years ago. Now, Paul Merson is one of the Arsenal players at the time. Arsene Wenger came in, we mentioned this on the last show. He was a completely different personality, philosophy, tactical mind, and preparer of his players. Paul Merson was not the most conscientious preparer. He had his problems, and to be fair to the man, he fronted up to them. He went to rehab and he's turned his life around, so that deserves a lot of credit. And he said at the time that he was given injections that he didn't know what it was and he didn't question it. And we saw an interview, a chat on Match of the Day, actually, it was between Ian Wright and Alan Shearer, where Shearer made a joke about, we should have had the FA Cup given to us because Arsenal players were doping at the time. And Ian Wright said, well, look, everybody was taking vitamins. Well, I don't think everybody quite understood what was going on, because at the time, even he admitted it wasn't common, it wasn't normal. And the reaction from Arsene Wenger a few years ago, I found very, very telling. He never specifically, he said, we didn't force anybody to take anything they didn't want to. Well, when you've got a foreign group of players, and I think it was fantastic on the pitch, the influence of particularly the core French players, Emmanuel Petit, and then you had Dennis Bergkamp would come over from Inter Milan, and it was a continental wave which really did improve the quality of football. They were used to the culture of preparing themselves far more efficiently. Right, so they had steak, pie, and chips before games in like the early 90s. And suddenly this guy comes in, and you see these foreign players who are performing at a higher level, capable of performing at a higher level, stronger, faster, for longer. They think, well, hang on, I want a bit of that. Of course, they're not going to question it. So it's not a case of forcing them to do it. They weren't prepared. They didn't know what it was they were doing. They simply were catching up, doing what they're...
Yeah, it was part of the culture. You're dead right, Andrew, because I mean, for a long, long time, this has been going on in the European continent. I mean, it didn't come from America. It was there always, and they used it, and we pointed in the last show where the German team who won the World Cup in 1958. That syringes were found in the dressing room. I mean, it was well known. I mean, this isn't new. And you're right. Arsene Wenger brought it to a next level. Christian Gross came in. That Tottenham believed that he would do the same thing. Unfortunately, the Spurs players weren't interested in doing that. And by the time Claudio Ranieri was in Chelsea, the players already had a kind of some sort of leveling that they knew what to take. And when he brought in the Mappe, the cycling up the game, especially with EPO and caffeine, the players were like, no. And, you know, it is a leveling. Double N, you are an Arsenal fan. What do you think of these revelations?
Well, in my opinion, they're also shocking because, like, we hear so many stories in these Olympic Games, especially when it's like sometimes it goes politics full speed, but we seldom hear about them in football. So specifically, hearing about it in Arsenal club was very upsetting for me. But it's a really sad fact that so many people are actually not quite understanding the philosophy of sports, like where you have to like develop your body and compete at the full fairness. They're like doing some shortcuts and taking shortcuts and doing things that are not right. So it's sad actually.
Yeah, look, you're right. It is shortcuts, it's cheating, and let's not forget that the stuff that they take means that they can train harder and longer and recover quicker. So, you know, they're working as hard as everybody else. Actually, they're working harder than everybody else because the stuff that they're putting into their bodies allows them to do it. So this is, you know, it's like the stuff that athletes were taking, well, not just here in Russia, all around. I'm now just blanked the name of the preparat. It was called, help me guys, the one that was banned that everyone that failed for, made in Latvia.
My mind's gone blank.
And Maria Sharapova got done for it.
Melanin or something like that.
Meldonium.
Meldonium, yeah.
Meldonium, even though people say, it doesn't help, it does. Because at the time when I was working with sports nutrition, we were speaking with like gym rats and athletes. I knew footballers taking it. I was giving it to tennis players. As in, a mother of one tennis player gave me a box of Mildronat to say, can you give that to my daughter? You can't get it in Europe. She needs it as a prophylactic because it helps boost the immune system. I gave it to her. I checked, it wasn't on the banned list. It was all okay. And she took it. So this is the one where you get this amazing rush for about 3-4 hours and you do it. So, you know, it made a huge effect for training or for matches. And she herself told me that. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I didn't quite understand.
Alan, there's one thing you touched on there, and I think it's quite important to remember in all of this. And we mentioned this months ago on a Capital Sports radio show. And for me, it's this. people sometimes have a slightly misunderstanding of exactly what it is that the effects of doping can have. They turn you into a Superman. They don't turn you into a Superman. They give you that extra edge. Like you say, the actual athletes and players themselves, it's a grey area. Yes, some will know a little bit more than others about exactly what it is they're doing. They've still got to be finely tuned athletes. They've still got to work extremely, extremely hard. And so it really is entirely on the people who are providing it for them and giving them the information. For me, it's 100% of the blame is in their court, because even if somebody slightly understands what they're doing, they should be guided away from it. And if they don't understand what they're doing, then I would say it turns into a very serious matter. So the athletes and players largely, in my books, need to be guided better rather than blaming the athlete, because they're the figureheads. And that's the frustrating part. When you see these stories about doping scandals, an athlete, a footballer who's banned, it's the athlete, the famous person's name is splashed across the headlines. Very rarely is it the actual doctor or the advisors behind them that get put in the spotlight, and they should be, in my view.
Listen, this is something you're so right, Andrew, because we've brought up time and again. I think anyone who's interested in fighting against doping, you go to the source, you go to the people who make the drugs, who provide the drugs, who administer them, who advise on them. And it's a thing that has constantly annoyed me about so many people we've found here in Russia who've escaped justice, like the Stepanovs, for example, or Rodchenkov. They were heavily, Vasily Yuri Stepanov, the husband of the runner, he was involved in deleting results. He was in the lab itself. He was getting her the drugs. And then it's like, then they had this Philippine conversion like that. On the road to Damascus, we said, no, we won't do this anymore. Same with Rodchenkov. Rodchenkov was about to be put in jail. And he was going to lose a lot of money, and he disappeared. So this is the whole thing, that these people who are involved in supply and the advice and the administration of it, they need to be done. Athletes as well, because if the athletes are warned and told don't do this, then they know. They know. There's no two ways about it. If they understand what they're doing, it's like smokers. You tell smokers, this is going to kill you. If they continue to smoke, that's down on them. It sounds very, very bad, but that's the way it is. Okay. Move on to something lighter. Newcastle takeover has hit a very, very strange bump in the road, Andrew. What is that all about?
Well, yes, we've been hearing about a takeover for, I'd say, the last 7-8 years at Newcastle. It seems to be constantly coming and going. So quite frankly, until it's the case of when you're signing a player, until you see the player holding up the shirt, having signed the contract, I don't believe it. Until we actually physically see this go through, I'm going to struggle to believe it. So, yeah, it's a bid of about 300 million, 310 million, some places are quoting, for Newcastle United, that a consortium headed by this Amanda Staveley, who was part of the consortium, who bid to take over and had a, shall we say, fractious relationship with Mike Ashley, the owner, about 2 or 3 years ago. But I've been led to believe that something like 80% of the actual bid money is coming from a Saudi Arabian investment fund, a public investment fund. But the way in which they are purchasing the club it's a bit of a head scratcher. It's not just simply, here's the money, Mike Ashley, off we go, riding into the sunset. There are problems with I think something like £110 million loan that has to be moved over from Ashley to Staveley and this consortium. But papers have been filed for an official bid, but the papers don't name the public investment fund from Saudi Arabia.
So basically, Mike Ashley is giving a loan to this consortium, and he's giving a loan to the consortium. They're going to buy
to
it.
Allow the deal to go through.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we know what sort of a man Mike Ashley is, and we know that his business, he tried scandalously to keep his Sports Direct empire going by claiming it was an essential business because people need fitness equipment to keep fit, or some disgusting reason like that. His 0 hours contract policy and whatnot. So we know full well that he is only in it to make a profit. Now he's losing a lot like everybody else is. He doesn't want to lose that. And with a huge football club to run, that is the quickest, easiest way to cut his losses. So, and I believe it's an interest-free loan, apparently. So to loan somebody £100 million so that you don't lose money, that's the state's. Well, it is a realistic business matter, but actually has no interest in the club, quite clearly.
Okay, well, good man, Mike. Okay, there is some good news. We saw that clubs have had to back down. Bournemouth, Spurs, Liverpool, of course, famously had to back down from the taking advantage of the furlough payments that are available in the UK. Also, a strange one, well, a good and strange one, we'll speak about actually on Friday, with Zenit players, for, well, PR purposes, we know, are out delivering food to elderly people in St. Petersburg, so well done then. In Ligue 1, the French top division, the players are taking a 50% pay cut, is that correct?
Yes, they've they've announced that they're going to, because the media broadcasters have held back their latest instalment of TV money, which amounts to over 100 million euros. And they said, look, we're not going to pay that until we actually get some product to use. So in return, the clubs have estimated they'll lose about like a lot of leagues around the world, hundreds of millions of euros if the season is not finished. But even if they do plan to finish it in the future, they've still got the interim period when the clubs are, again, I can understand on a basic level from a business sense, you've got money that you had planned to have in, TV money, which is the largest chunk of money that clubs have. That's being withheld, so the players are taking like say 50% pay cut. I mean, it's almost, I don't want to take away, it is a good story, and it is positive that the players are being understanding to a degree. When you put it in comparison though, to what some players are committing, their pay cuts they're taking, the one that stood out for me, you mentioned Newcastle, was Matty Longstaff. Now he's one of these, he's come through the Newcastle Academy, he's in the first team, but he's still on a youth team contract of £850 a week. And he is committing a 30% pay cut. And I mean, he deserves as much credit as Neymar does for giving up £75,000 a week for clapping his home fans.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a huge deal. I mean, let's not mess about with it, because I think it's something that we need to, players, honestly, they don't have to give up money. They don't have to give up anything, because it's up to get paid. Of course, a lot of players are actually helping out left, right, and centre. So let's at least give credit where credit's due, and it's good for you to bring that up. Now, right away, we have breaking news. Well, not breaking news. That in Turkmenistan, Dublin, correct me if I'm incorrect, it's the Yokari Liga, correct?
Yeah, Yokari.
Okay. Yokari Liga. It's obviously it's a top flight in the Turkmenistan football pyramid. 8 teams involved. It's restarting this weekend. A lot of sort of, people are asking questions, should it be? But then again, as we know, in Turkmenistan, there's no coronavirus, as Dolan has himself reported. So well done, Turkmenistan. Listen, Dolan, we're very, very lucky to have Merdan Atayev. If you want to do the introduction, and then we'll hear what should we be looking forward to in this weekend's opening round of games in the Yokari Liga.
Thank you, Alan. So, as you mentioned in the introduction to our show, there are 5 leagues currently running. So technically there are 4. So our league is gonna resume to run. It's actually the first match is on 19th of April. So to hear more about that, I'm very happy to introduce my friend and journalist from Turkmenistan, Mr. Merdan Ataev. He's currently working for Innovative Ashgabat portal. So we will have all the links posted in our social media. So welcome to our show, Mr. Merdan. How are you feeling now? Can you hear us?
Great. I can hear. I don't know if you can see me now.
We can see you loud
I wasn't
and clear,
expecting. I wasn't expecting that I would be joining such a conversation. I thought I'm just gonna watch another conference. It was a pleasant surprise. Things are great here. How are you guys doing over there?
Well, in Moscow.
Hey, you gotta put on some shirt. Come on.
So in Moscow, it's full lockdown. I think for both myself and Double N. I think Andrew Flint, is it lockdown for you as well?
Yeah.
And Andrew?
Sure.
It's not as full of lockdown as in Moscow, but businesses are closed and cafes closed, but not too much else. We're okay here.
Okay. Merdan, we really want to know, can you tell us a little bit about the Turkmenistan, the Yokari Liga, and also who should we look out for in the league this year, like say clubs and players? Because I know that Altinas Asir, they are the reigning champions. They're going for, what is it, their 7th title in a row. Who are they, and who's backing them?
You mean Al Nassr football team, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I gotta be frank with you, because here the football fever is not like in other countries. Well, there was in 90s, there was fever, like Kupeta was one of the favorites. So I gotta be frank, I don't know the latest updates on the football. Al Nassr is the football team of the Turkmen Telecommunication Company, be exact, mobile service company Al Nassr. Okay, they're backing them. How can I say? Financially, they're the strongest one. They can afford anything. I mean, their upgrades, their facilities. Al Nassr, is backed by the Turkmen Telecom Company.
And overall, you said that football isn't, isn't huge in Turkmenistan. How many people would go to a normal game? Like, we're talking like 5, 10, or 15,000?
If local games, national games like local league, my observation, not more than 300, 400 people in stadiums. So that's why recently they haven't been using big stadiums. They've been using the fields next to the stadium. But if international games like Turkmenistan, India, Korea, North Korea, when they came, the stadiums with 20,000, 30,000 are filled up, and there is as many which cannot get into the stadium. So it's been recently. It's this, especially the being fan for the national team, the fever has risen after 2017 when there was Asian indoor games a year. After that, it's got that fever. And basically, the tickets are free, but still, for national game and for local games, we cannot drag many people.
Oh, okay. So basically, if it comes to the national team, then there's a good turnout, but if not, it's kind of small. In terms of football as part of life in Turkmenistan, are a lot of people playing it? Is it a public sport, or are there other sports that are more important in Turkmenistan?
Well, definitely football is the most favorite sport, just like in most of the countries. People as hobby, do play football. But what I'm saying is, football is, as you know, it's a mega business. It's a show business, actually. We haven't been able to to make it as a show business recently. That's the problem actually. When it will be show business, we can drag more sponsors, we can drag more media. I mean, we have the media, we have 7 channels, national channels, but they don't know how to make the propaganda of the football, to make the people, to drag the people into it. People rather watch foreign, international football. They're watching English Premier League, Italian League. They have less in league. Most of them know about happening.
Okay, finally, I know, Martin, just before we wrap up, who are the best players in Turkmenistan, and who do they play for? That our people should watch out for. I think we might have lost Merdan.
You see, I can't even tell you 2, 3 names. Because I'm not into it. I hear the name Oshmarat Lot, Oshmarat, I don't know, Oshmarat Sahed or something like that. We hear their names when there is international games, they score goals. Hey, who scored? Sahedov scored. Who is Sahedov? I don't know.
Okay.
But we know a few players in Russia, 3 players in Indonesia.
Yeah, because it's easy. There's quite a few of the Turkmen players who are playing abroad. Even in Tajikistan, they're playing in Uzbekistan as well, and Kyrgyzstan. So they are outside, and Kazakhstan, of course, as well. Berdan, overall, the coronavirus is not affecting life or sports in Turkmenistan. Everything is just going on as usual, correct? Okay, I think we might have.
Well, yeah, 2017, when there was Asian indoor and games, it has been a huge event. I mean, actually, our government over-exaggerated this event, World Cup, as we're doing World Olympics. For that, the opening ceremony, then the London. I mean, we over-exaggerated the celebration. It was so huge, but the other impact is that it has. I mean, we had opened so many sports. Like there wasn't a bowling federation. Now we have it, or like there wasn't sambo. Now we have it. So many sports federations has launched since 2017. So Minister of Sports now a committee, national committee. Now it's sports and youth is become a huge ministry. I mean, publication, new website channels on sports has launched.
Okay, I think we've lost Merdan. Yeah, it's dropped out. Okay, Dublin. Just a question that we asked that coronavirus isn't really an element right now in Turkmenistan. It's not affecting life or sports.
Well, actually, so many news outlets reported that the coronavirus word had been banned, and we ourselves reported that, if you remember, on our show. But actually, when I was preparing for this interview today, I was digging some news archives and some other portals, Turkmen portals. Like they're saying openly that there are some coronavirus hotlines. So please, if you have any problems, please call. So at least I cannot confirm that it was banned because official portals are using that word. So, but yeah, from what I hear, the situation is now not critical. So the hospitals are not full. So like, yeah, the situation is stable. thank God, and continues to be so. And I hope we will just it will go on, and we will pass these hard times with not many casualties.
Okay, that is going. We're all hoping the same thing. We do know, thanks to Andrew, that Kenny Dalglish is recovering, so that's good news. We said, of course, on Sunday that the Liverpool and Scotland legend was taken into hospital with coronavirus. Folks, we're going to run away now in just a moment. Before we do have like another Kenyan falling foul of doping. Andrew, can you just give us a quick update on that, because that's one of, now there's no doping testing because of course nobody's training, nobody.
No, of course.
The genius of Travis Paper Tiger from USADA tells us that no, we don't need to be testing anymore, and his all repeating what he said in this kind of echo chamber. But another Kenyan found by the Athletics Integrity Unit found doping.
Well, yes, Mr. Daniel Wanjiru, who won the London Marathon in 2017, he has been, he's been banned from competing whilst they confirm the use of a prohibited substance and or method. And so it does beg the question, when we're told by the highest, cleanest authorities that there will be no testing, that somebody has been tested for a banned substance. I'm rather confused by that, to be honest with you. But Wanjiru is a very successful runner. He's competed in marathons around the world. He's won the Amsterdam Marathon as well in 2016. So the Athletics Integrity Unit, which in itself as a concept is rather confusing, really, because usually we see the either WADA or USADA, or whichever country it is, their anti-doping agency. This is the Athletics Integrity Unit. So I'm starting to wonder, well, who has the ultimate control in testing in this period when there is no testing? Perhaps it's all a one grand scheme to create a smokescreen where nobody quite knows who to answer to or who is in charge. I'm rather lost, I'll be honest. On this, but
it's very, very confusing right now. I mean, the AIU are doing a good job, but it's strange. And all the athletes that they have investigated and gone into, there's a severe lack of athletes from the US, UK, and Australia. Maybe because it's all in the gift of one Mr. Seb Cole, but that remains to be seen. One tragic piece of news broke yesterday. Carl Anthony Towns, the centre for the Minnesota Timberwolves, his mom, Jacqueline, passed away due to coronavirus complications. And it's a sad situation because he's one of the players who actually had given up part of his salary as well and had been quite vocal in the fight against coronavirus. So, you know, we know how it began in the NBA. We knew where it started from one French player, Gobert, acting like an idiot, and it went off from there. Okay, folks, we're going to run out today because our time is almost up. So we're going to get this up on audio, and then Double N is going to work his magic on it and put us up on a video as well, so you can see our ugly mugs. Well, my ugly mug anyway. So once again, remember that no matter how tough it is, we'll get through it. So thank you very much, Mr. Andrew Flint.
Most welcome. Looking forward to next time already.
Okay. Double N, thank you very, very much for finally joining us in person. It's great to see you, and to see you looking so fit and well as well.
Thank you so much. You see, I came not one, but with my friends, so next time we will be three.
Brilliant. Of course, Alex B has just finished some exams, so he's taking a bit of time off, and Andy Mack was finished work last night at very, very late, so he wouldn't be able to join us. Folks, we've just got a few seconds left. So again, remember, stay active in this time of lockdown. Hold your